This is probably the biggest meeting I've ever been to. We only just started doing online meetings here in Virginia Beach, because of coronavirus. So I knew online meetings existed, but I live in a city, not hugely populated, not like some of you in LA and stuff like that, but plenty of meetings day and night. So I never really had the need to go online. But I love that people are eating ice cream and in their jammies. And I'm kind of like, dude, I might have to like make this a regular part of my life. So it's really cool. You might see me again. So thanks for asking me to speak. My sobriety date is June 30th, 2003. I have a sponsor who sponsors people, and I have sponsees of my own, women who I sponsor. I have a home group. It's Bayside 12-Step Study, and we actually had our online meeting today at 10:30. It's in Virginia Beach, so if you're ever down this way, Monday, 10:30, 12-Step Study. It's great. So my drinking career started pretty young, but probably pretty similar to so many of you guys. I grew up in an alcoholic household. My mom is now in recovery. My parents divorced when I was in like ninth grade, and then my mom married my stepdad in 11th grade or so, and he was in recovery. And when he died of cancer back in, gosh, I don't know, about 10 years ago or so, he had about 22 years. So they both had long-term recovery, which was great modeling for me. But yeah, I just always drinking and alcohol kind of being a part of my life. It just always seemed really normal. And as a kid, when I would go over to people's houses and their parents didn't drink, it seemed really strange to me. So probably my dad would always say, like, oh, you want a sip of my beer? Or here, let me give you a little of my beer, that kind of thing. When I remember probably as early as when I was in third or fourth grade. But I remember in like sixth grade taking beer with me from my parents' garage to sleepover. And maybe there were about 10 girls there, and it was like me and two other girls even wanted to try. And I remember just thinking, God, that's so weird. I really thought this was just going to be like the coolest thing, and everybody was going to think I was fabulous because I brought beer. And I think my drinking probably took off more. It was very more episodic when I was in ninth, 10th grade, because it really had to do with being able to get it. And then more consistently, I got it, junior, senior year in high school. And I remember thinking even back then, it was like I always struggled with getting kind of the perfect buzz. I just wanted it where I felt good and had the social lubricant. My lips got a little bit numb and I was kind of more giddy. And yet it always seemed to get out of hand. It wasn't a nice backup. It wasn't every time something bad happened, but anytime something bad happened, it was always alcohol related, whether it was driving in the car with my friends. I mean, my God, I should have wrecked and killed all of us. I don't even know how I got home. Throwing up, that night of, morning of, headache, hooking up with random guys, like just cheating on my boyfriend, things like that. The shame, the guilt, the remorse, all that kind of stuff. And when I went to college, I ended up dating someone who didn't drink at all. He was kind of, how you used to go to the clubs and you put like an X on your hand, straight edge, kind of like, I don't need that crutch kind of thing. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, because I hadn't known anything about that. And I just thought he was awesome and hot and fabulous. And so I was like, well, that's kind of cool. So I didn't drink because one time I was around him when we first started spending time together, and I got drunk and made a fool of myself and all this. And I was like, well, button it up. Like, I'm not losing this, because I never had like a legit nice guy boyfriend. They were always like kind of jerks, just always using me and I was using them. It was never like healthy. So I thought, oh, this is going to be healthy. So I stopped drinking. Total white knuckled it again. Didn't really know until looking back that that's what was happening. And kind of that restless, irritable discontent really, really built in me. And fortunately, I think one thing that helped me through that, honestly, about a year and a half of not drinking and not really having a program, was I was going to Al-Anon, because I thought, my parents were my problem, and that's why I acted how I did and all that. But my mom, as you know, got in recovery, but my dad did not. And so I sort of blamed it all on them. So I actually, shockingly, not shockingly, because Al-Anon is great, but sort of I think I learned some tools and skills through that helped me cope, I guess, when I wasn't drinking. And I remember going to some open AA meetings as an Al-Anoner. Some of the women there dated guys in AA, or their husbands were sober or whatever. And I went to those meetings when I was in college, and I remember coming home from break and thinking like, wow, I really relate. Or saying to my parents, my mom, my stepdad at the time, who was in recovery, I said, I relate to the alcoholic people kind of more than I do the AA people. And my mom goes, well, maybe you're an alcoholic. And my stepdad goes, you're not an alcoholic. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right, you know. And I remember in about my junior year, that guy and I had broken up, and you know, and I was kind of doing my thing and hadn't drank. And then I turned 21. I still didn't drink on my 21st birthday because I thought, oh, I've gone all this time without drinking. I might as well. Why would I drink just because it's my birthday? You know, even though honestly, I really, really wanted to. And it probably was a week or two after my 21st birthday. I went to a party and I was like, I'm just gonna have a few beers, catch that sort of ever elusive buzz, hang on. And that first night back from drinking after a year and a half, nothing had changed. It was the same stuff that I had gone through with, you know, thinking I was just gonna have a few beers, came back to my dorm, ended up taking shots of some brown liquor, I don't even know what it was, hooked up with some guy, threw up, horrible hangover the next day. It was a dorm where it was like, you know, guys on one end of the hall, girls on the other, then girls and guys kind of crisscross. So we were like right there, like 30 people. Everybody knew all my stuff. It was horrible, just the most horrible thing. And, you know, you think like, sit, kind of what's the common denominator every time, you know, this kind of stuff is happening. And you know, it's like they talk about in the book, then a normal person would say, oh, okay, I got to put it down, you know, but I didn't know at the time, I didn't know I was an alcoholic then. And maybe I knew I had kind of a different relationship with alcohol than my friends, but I didn't really know that it was alcoholism. And I just kind of kept trying that experiment. And finally, when I was probably, yeah, I was like right before I got sober, 28, 29 years old. And I was in my career now, I'm a financial advisor. And I was starting to notice that like I was becoming friends with my clients, and I'd go out with friends and I'd see clients. And so like my work and social life were kind of becoming intermingled. And I knew I sort of had to hold it together. And there were a couple of times where I couldn't. And it was just getting like more and more out of control. And so I started trying to control my drinking. And it's the stuff they talked about in the big book. I would drink before I went out, or I wouldn't drink, or I would eat before I drank, or I wouldn't drink, or, you know, and then I did this thing where I would have 0 to 3 drinks. I'd give myself kind of a limit. And it was interesting because then going back to the big book, when I did get sober, you know, where they talk about the experiment of, if you want to determine if you're an alcoholic or not, step over to a bar room and have a couple drinks and then stop abruptly and kind of see if you can do it, or try and stop drinking for a year, that type of thing. And I didn't have to do the whole go and drink and stop after a few drinks, because that's what I did. What I'd found through that experiment of having 0 to 3 when I went out was, when I had none, I was kind of better off than when I had 3. When I had 3, I was just like, wait till I get home so I can kind of finish a job. And I didn't realize that once I take that first drink, that starts the allergy and the phenomenon of craving. Now I have the mental obsession going on all the time, but if I'm not drinking, I kind of found a little bit more success being able to control it, you know, so to speak. Not that I ever really could, but you know, but certainly after that first drink, all bets were off. So that was kind of a good experiment. And what ended up happening is, my last night drinking wasn't anything different than what I described to you from that night when I first started after a year of not drinking. It was pretty much the same exact thing. But because I've been trying so hard to manage and control, I was just done. I was just so done. It just took up so much energy to, you know, figure out how am I going to get there and how am I going to get back, and you know, how much should I have, and you know, I wasn't the addict like they talked about. Like one of the stories is with the guy, you know, running up to going down to the car to shoot up, to get upstairs, to pass out in time, you know, that kind of thing where he's trying to time it. But I kind of related to that because I felt like it was all those balls that I'm juggling in the air, and just, and like managing all my different relationships, like my partying kind of relationships. And then my kind of, I had some goody two shoe Bible bang. Bible, please don't feel offended. My very strong Christian friend, you know, friendships. I don't mean to offend anybody, but you know, just people that were really, really good people. But like if they really knew the real me, they wouldn't want anything to do with me, or they'd be trying to save me, you know. But I kind of acted as if these are the people, you know, this was my personality, and then this is my personality, and I was this sort of chameleon, and it was just exhausting. And so finally, when I got into AA and was ready to, you know, give it a real go, I just found like it was just, my biggest thing was just kind of relief, like, oh, like I can stop fighting. You know, I had that feeling. And for kind of newcomers, and all of us will probably relate, especially newcomers, maybe I remember a couple things, like waking up without a hangover was like the best gift that I could have gotten from sobriety to begin with. Um, I've never struggled with my weight or anything, but I'm like, I lost weight. You know, of course I'd put on the pounds, you know, a little bit by you know, all the alcohol and the calories and stuff. Lost a little weight, felt good. I started running again. And and the friendships and the fun and the fellowship and all that for a while, like a good year and a half, honestly, that kind of kept me sober. I stayed sober on the fellowship, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, because I did have a sponsor and I worked the steps, but I worked them to my ability that I could at that time. The amount that I was able to kind of be honest with myself, because I wasn't ready, really. I hadn't hit enough of a bottom. I mean, on the outside, inside, I think I hit enough of a bottom. Outside, I seemed to the outside person like very much a cookie burner kind of alcoholic. Like I hadn't been in jail, I hadn't gotten a DUI, I didn't lose my job. Now I was sort of self-employed, like 100% commission. So if they're not paying you, they don't really give a crap what kind of commissions you make. I wasn't married, so I didn't lose my family. You know, I didn't alienate kids because I didn't have kids. So there's a lot of things I didn't have to lose, but I didn't have a lot of that outside stuff. But inside I was broken, but I don't think I was really broken enough. So what happened is when I was in recovery, I kept doing the same stuff I'd been doing. I was still lying. I was still cheating. I was still, you know, just kind of being the person that I always thought was always caused by alcohol. I thought alcohol made me act this way. Alcohol made me treat people this way and be selfish and self-centered and all that. And it was when my relationships were still pretty crappy and things weren't really healed, that kind of all came to light to me. And when I was, and so I started to get in pain enough, you know, the good little things that become the bad beginning. And I do value them, like not having hangovers and feeling better on the outside, looking better, all that kind of stuff. Like that was all great. But the inside, like my insides were still just crap. And so about a year and a half in sobriety, I was feeling like crap. My life and what I was doing.
Yo, George P, are you ninja? What the fuck, bro? Oh my god.
Speaking of which, somebody just joined.
I'm gonna pause.
Oh, it's you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Ashley. Keep going.
That's okay. I'm back. So anyway, so a friend of mine that I had known from before AA, we had kind of similar backgrounds, similar groups of friends, all that type of stuff. He had come into AA and kind of been in and out and really struggled and all that. And when I was about a year and a half sober, he ended up killing himself. And I think that was a huge wake up call.
Yo, George P, are you actually ninja? This is actually insane.
Okay. All right.
We'll need to unmute her again.
Yeah, I see it now.
Sorry.
I was waiting on Kristen.
Sorry,
Okay.
Ashley. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, so anyway, that really brought to light to me that it wasn't just fun and games and going and bowling and playing pool and having fun with people. It wasn't just
These people are calling it.
okay. All right. So it wasn't just kind of the fun of the fellowship that was going to keep me sober. It made me really realize that it's a fatal malady, and that if I didn't do something, I was going to die. And so what I ended up doing was there was a group of women that were studying the big book together. And this one lady who I really admired, I asked her, I remember thinking like I was feeling a little like put off that I wasn't asked to be in this group, and something like set my pride aside. I was ready. I was kind of willing to go to any length. And I just went over to this lady, and rather than saying, nice to invite me kind of thing, I just said, hey, I understand you started a book study. I'd really love to be a part of it. And she's like, fabulous. Here's where we're meeting. What's going on? And so I started going through the book. And this time when I went through, well, first off, the first time I went through the steps with the sponsor, it was very much like, it was not from the book. It was not what the experience that I had the second time. And it was just kind of some other format. And I had enough of an experience that I stayed sober through it, but I didn't get this kind of spiritual experience I did when I did the steps out of the big book. And so I went through with these women page by page, paragraph by paragraph, reading, really like dissecting the big book and taking it all in. And when, it told us to do stuff, we did it. When it prayed, we prayed together. And I remember I had this totally different experience when I got to the fourth step. Before, I had been so full of fear and so worried about people judging me and all this kind of stuff. And there were things I didn't even want to hand write on my fourth step because I just wasn't ready to tell them, talk about it. And when I went through this next time and did the fifth step with who's still my sponsor now, it was a totally different experience. It just, it was totally what I needed to have this spiritual experience, to connect with a higher power. And I know I only have 15 minutes, so I'll kind of get to the end. But it was kind of like when the fifth step was probably most powerful to me, because my sponsor, the thing that I just thought was so horrible and awful and ugly, and she was just not gonna, want to hang out with me ever again and be so pissed at me. She had, done the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh, and it was just like this God moment. And when I would go to meetings after that, I remember feeling like I was really part of the group. And I'll harp on the fourth step a little bit, because I've sponsored women who've been in and out, in and out, in and out, never seemed to really get it. And then, not while I was currently sponsoring them, but after that, months, years later, when other people are sponsoring them, they ended up dying. I mean, this is a really serious disease. And I remember talking with some of them and just saying, like, have you done the steps? Yeah, well, I've done it. And I'm like, no, like, have you really taken out a piece of paper, pen to paper, write down, shared with somebody face to face, eyeball to eyeball, like, all fear aside, have you told somebody all your crap, And and I'm like, and so my experience was just that for me anyway, that was the biggest thing I had to do to be able to kind of get to the next level of peace, to have that ease and comfort without drugs or alcohol, that I could, be the person that I know God wanted me to be. And I went through and I did the steps. I did 8, 9, 10. I actually had 11, 12. I had somebody who's really, really important to me in my life pass away recently. My high school track coach, who brought me in the business I'm in now and was like a second dad to me, just amazing influence in my life. And he passed away just 5 days ago. And while I was so broken up about it, two things that had given me a lot of comfort. One, just the great memories I have of him and grateful to know him and be a part of his life and his family. And two, he was my first face-to-face amends that I made. And I'm like, wow, what an amazing gift. So I was totally honest with him about being in AA and kind of cleared away the wreckage of the past with him. And then finally, and this I think is a real gift to the program, and it seems like maybe an aside subject, but I didn't have any regrets from the standpoint of, did he really know how I felt about him and how important he was to me and how instrumental he was in my life? Because there was more than one occasion, whether it be verbally, and I have 2 like written accounts of it, through email and stuff, where I said to him, like, I can never thank you enough. Here's what you've meant to me. Here's what you've did for me and my family and my life and my trajectory and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, I think about that, and it's just the types of relationships that I'm able to have now, and the peace that I have and the serenity that I have. Most of the time I get full of fear sometimes and I get off track and my relationships aren't perfect, but just the opportunity that I have because of the tools of this program and the relationship with my higher power, it's amazing. And anyway, I'm really glad you guys asked me. Sorry for all the bomber kind of people, because it totally like rattled you, like, I'm in the middle of like talking about my friend who killed himself, and now people are like jumping in. So it's kind of crazy. So sorry if I seem like a nut job in my sharing, but anyway, so yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll shut up now.